This video contains some of the biggest and dirtiest secrets of how YouTube operates. I thought for a considerable length of time before uploading it, as potentially by revealing my methods, I could compromise what I myself am doing. I decided to do it on balance, mainly because I noticed a great many of my subscribers have themselves started channels, often with fantastic content, and either given up in frustration or got nowhere. And I want those people to know they can succeed and help them to do that. This is the no-holds-barred, unadulterated guide on how to get to 10,000 subs on YouTube. Now, let me say straight out, I'm a hacker. I bend rules. Sometimes I break them. That's what I make videos about. If you are a very idealistic person that doesn't like to do that, then a lot of these concepts will not be appropriate for you. Don't go away though, because I'll be addressing the type of strategies people like you can still use towards the end of the video. But be aware that this is not a game for the weak-willed. And remember, I'm telling you how it is, not necessarily how it should be. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the primary reason 99% of channels fail. And this is simply because people start up a YouTube channel and only have a very vague idea of what they actually want to do with it. In particular, they tend to make videos with titles which no one will ever search for because they don't define a reason why anyone who is browsing on YouTube would need or want to watch that information, and this is absolutely fatal. In the vast majority of cases, this will not work. There are a few exceptions. Sometimes a video will go viral for seemingly absolutely no reason. If you want a good example of this, then I look at the YouTuber McJuggernuggets, who did YouTube for 7 straight years and accumulated only 100 subs during that time. Then he uploaded a series called Psycho Dad, which accumulated over 3 million subs virtually overnight. But trying to luck out like this is a bit like buying a lottery ticket. No one, not even huge corporations with billions of dollars at their disposal, has cracked how to send a video truly viral. For most of us then, you need to work out how to harness the power of YouTube search. And there's been a great deal of complicated technical analysis on this, but in truth, it isn't really that complex. Here's the basic formula I use. I think of something I want to make a video about. I type in the exact term on YouTube search, and this will usually give you a series of similar search terms. I then take the best and most applicable of these terms and construct a title from them. Where a lot of people go wrong is that they try to make an elegant sounding title, and this will not work. You are really trying to shove in as many keywords as possible. My best performing videos by far, with over 250,000 hits, is entitled Best Gold Farm in WoW Legion 703, 15,000 gold in 10 minutes, 75,000 gold per hour of time invested. Not exactly catchy, is it? And it isn't meant to be. It is meant to expose people searching for a wide variety of terms to my video. Where many people go wrong is in uploading a series of videos around a specific theme or series. Unless the first video in the series is extraordinarily successful, then this is generally a bad idea. I think the thinking behind this type of sequence of videos is that by doing a series you will be putting out content consistently and that you will eventually attract an audience. In fact, this is almost the opposite of what you should be doing. Now, this may seem like a controversial statement in the light of recent developments on YouTube, where the system has been changed to distribute traffic towards channels that upload regularly. That seemed to have occurred in the last quarter of 2016. While there is a mountain of evidence to support this, you need to bear in mind that this is a guide to your first 10,000 subs, not your first million. At this early stage, you are looking to make a name for yourself. This is very different from trying to consolidate traffic to an already successful channel. Now, one of the most difficult things for most YouTubers is to actively sell their content. YouTubers tend to be good people. They have a natural humility. They don't like to brag. Commendable as this is, YouTube is really set up for rampant narcissists. If, like me, this isn't you, then you are going to have to change your attitude a little. When I was younger, I used to read the Melody Maker, a music paper, and they would regularly feature bands that never featured in any mainstream music paper or on the radio. I used to read these features religiously, trying to work out what made a band successful. In every case, the quality and style, even the appearance of the band, were almost irrelevant, and virtually every factor you could think of made no difference at all. There was, however, just one common factor to the groups that became commercially successful. They all claimed to be, and I quote, the best band in the world. Now, obviously, there can only be one best band in the world at any one time, and it wasn't any of them. Even Oasis, whom I remember seeing in print for the very first time, and who did in fact go on to become the biggest band in the world for several years. Now, when you hear someone say, "I'm the best in the world," most people aren't going to believe you. That isn't the point. The point is, you get people's attention. I listened out for these bands on the radio, and part of me wanted to hear them crash and burn for their arrogance, and part of me thought, maybe they really are that good. Mostly when I actually heard them, I thought, pretty good, but not great, at least yet. And maybe I bought the record, maybe I didn't. But they did get my attention. And that is really how YouTube works. If you see a title on a video like "Best Shoes in the World," you can't help but notice it. Even if you're not really that interested in shoes, I always find myself clicking on that kind of clickbait title without even realizing it. And this is an incredibly powerful principle of YouTube success. Now, psychologists know of a phenomenon called the halo effect, which roughly works like this. The more positive a person is, the more people like them. And this has a lot to do with the fact that we tend to copy the mental state of the person talking. And so someone who seems down depresses us, whereas someone upbeat makes us feel full of life and vitality. And for this reason, happy, optimistic people tend to do better in almost all aspects of life, just because people want to be around them. If you look at some of the most popular people on YouTube, such as for example Zoella and PewDiePie, you can see how they attract such a large following even though their content isn't particularly exceptional or unique. Now, you can overdo this and come across as glib and irritating, and it can be very tough to do sometimes. At 3 AM in the morning after editing footage for 16 hours, I sometimes sound like Droopy the dog on methadone. But ultimately, this attitude adds up to a couple of subs for every few hundred hits. It's actually that powerful. And also, staying positive really helps with your motivation. Now, the following point seems like a contradiction almost of the last point, and a lot of people couldn't contemplate using this strategy because it is a borderline Jedi mind trick. This is a completely unique approach that I use in my own videos and has made a dramatic difference. Virtually every YouTuber says something like this at the end of every single video. Thanks, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And the reason they do this is that the simple act of asking people to do these things means that more people will. But it's quite a crude method. I used to and still sometimes do this, but to be honest, it isn't that effective. You aren't giving people a reason to sub. So what I started to do was say, why not sub because you're going to love my next video, which worked better because people now have something to gain from subscribing. Now, I was also aware of a psychological principle known as loss aversion. And this is the idea that human beings tend to be motivated more by fear of loss than hope of gain. I realised from watching Charles myself that one of the primary reasons I tended to sub to people was that I really didn't like missing out when they released a new video. So I began to sign off myself by saying stuff like, don't forget to subscribe because you're going to kick yourself if you miss out on what I'm coming up with next. And this has worked very well for me. One thing that you absolutely have to do in the modern era of YouTube that again most people struggle with is make videos over 10 minutes long at least. And the reason is that YouTube search gives massive disproportionate weight to time spent watching. Long videos do significantly better than short videos, and it isn't even close. Now, like me, you probably started off on YouTube by trying to get to the point as quickly as possible and make short videos. You probably had the experience yourself of watching a long introduction or listening to some guy going on about his cat when you just clicked on the video to get some basic technical information. And having had that experience, you figured that you shouldn't do that to your own viewers. Now, there's a way around this. The best way to avoid wasting people's time while still making long enough videos to rank, I found, is to simply stuff one video with a number of good ideas. For example, I come up with funky tricks to use in video games. I used to upload one at a time, and they really got almost no traffic from YouTube search itself. Now I upload 10 tricks at a time and put it all into one video, and I then call it a guide. Now, this is something people search for a lot online. Overall, I get much more traffic from that one video than if I uploaded 10 separate videos. Another principle from psychology that is very important to understand is that people respect authority figures, and you should try and give off an appearance of authority for that reason. The best example of this is the video gamer Total Biscuit, whose video game reviews have amassed over 2 million subscribers. Now, this isn't something that comes to me naturally. I am naturally very distrustful of authority. I hate to be perceived as condescending or pompous, but it is necessary to command a certain amount of respect to just get your message across. Now, authority tends to come with integrity, and for those of you I referred to earlier who are more idealistic, this is really what you should strive for, because integrity really goes very strongly together with authority. The dominance of sleazy clickbait on YouTube at the moment and shock value has created a climate where people greatly appreciate a voice they can actually trust. And this is an area I think you should really focus on if you want to rise above the crowd. Now, one thing you'll need to do early on if you are serious about YouTube is to leave your ego at the door. Ask yourself this question: how do I feel if I made a video and it got 1 million dislikes and 100,000 likes? And if your answer was something like, I'd be very upset, then you probably shouldn't do YouTube. If your answer is something like, great, I got a ton of traffic and made thousands of dollars, then you are really cut out for this. There's a common myth that dislikes don't mean anything. And incredibly, this is a myth because dislikes actually help your video. YouTube sees dislikes as a sign that users are engaging with your content. You can even actually test this out if you don't believe me. Upload 2 identical videos and dislike one and leave the other, and you'll notice the disliked video has a higher search ranking. It will actually rank above the other video. This is really just an extension of the old adage, there is no such thing as bad publicity. The more controversy you create, the more successful you'll be. Now, there are 2 ways and 2 ways only to get money from YouTube or their parent company Google. You do not get money from subscribers. You do not get money for views. You get money only if people who are not using AdBlock click on adverts on your video, or, and this is a much smaller factor, they're subscribed to YouTube Red and watched your videos. That'll be about 10% of the income from people clicking on ads. This creates a massive distortion whereby YouTubers can be paid quite different amounts for a similar number of views. It is why you see quite a lot of product-orientated reviews. Potentially these can be worth 10 times as much as non-product-orientated content like mine, as those videos can result in direct sales for advertisers. YouTube is very, very greedy. There's been a lot of controversy recently about videos getting demonetized and people coming out with theories about how there is some kind of political agenda that YouTube is pushing, and it isn't. It is just very, very greedy and doesn't want videos that it can't sell to advertisers. Finally, it is absolutely essential that if you ever seriously want to succeed on YouTube, that you do something. There are so many reasons you can put it off, and you won't know most of the technical aspects of recording early on, and guess what? No one does. There are some guides online, but a lot of the stuff you'll have to figure out for yourself. Your early videos will suck. So do everyone's. You will get negative feedback, and you simply do it until you get better. It's part of the process, it's part of the fun. So now I've come to the end of the video, and there's a lot of useful information here, and I hope you benefit from it. Thank you for watching. This has been Archfelder.